Uninterrupted Media presents Patrick Stewart. LSUODYSSEY.COM. Welcome. I don't know who that was. Was that Liam Neeson in the back room freaking out? Did we get Liam Neeson champagne instead of whiskey? What's going on back there? Get the man his drinks. Anyway, it's LSUODYSSEY.COM in the house with our buddy Lester Earl. Les Earl. Got him in the house. He's wearing his favorite Les Miles shirt. Really, he's sitting here. He's loving life. He's on Tiger droppings right now as we speak. When is he not? And he's wearing his favorite Billy Embody mask. So I mean, it's even funnier than it could possibly have been to have Les here in the studio. We're very proud to have Les here in the studio today with us as we run down my top 5 performers of fall. You know what? Actually, scratch that. I'm just going to call it the top performers of fall camp thus far. I don't think there's even 5 that can be contained within a list. So we're going to start with someone who, you know, I've been thinking a lot more about this guy more and more by the day, just like, you know, he kind of slid under the radar while people were talking about Todd Harris, Jordan Tolles, Sage Ryan, you know, justifiably so. And meanwhile, Major Burns is sitting there making one-handed interceptions during fall camp practices. Unreal to watch him cork his back like that with that reach, just whoo, you know, all the way back, looking up at the sky, rip it out of the air, just like a Randy Moss touchdown over Charles Woodson, just collecting that ball in his grasp, you know, holding it against his forearm with his hand. It was sexy. It was a sexy interception from Major Burns. But not only that, you know, he's showing us he can make those turnovers and those high percentage plays, which is fantastic. But that's just an added bonus, really, from the safety position. But what you want most from the safety position is fundamental tackling, gap sound integrity, and we got that one with Major Burns. Because Major Burns, according to Coach Ed Orgeron, made 3 game-saving tackles in the last few practices. Or I think he even just said in the last practice. So in one practice, he's making 3 game-saving tackles where he's leaping, a ton of space behind him, and he's taking a calculated risk, but he's calculating the risk. He's not just flailing. He's not just flying at something like a chicken with the head cut off, like 2020 LSU defense. He's picking his moments, he's hesitating, and then he's reacting. You know, people talk about hesitation being a bad thing in football. It's only a bad thing if you don't know how to control it. It's actually quite beautiful. It's like a guitarist who, instead of just soloing the whole time, goes, like, I mean, that doesn't sound good at all, does it? That sounds like shit. What sounds good is, it's that space between the notes, you know. It's just like guitar, just like any craft. There's got to be some space to let things breathe, to let the true craft shine, true mastercraft shine. And Major Burns, he knows when to hold, and then launch. You know, that's what safety is about. Safety isn't just about flying at something full speed and knocking the shit out of it. Because most of the time, if you're going to be doing that, you're going to catch air, as we saw last year with 2020 LSU. So, point is, Major Burns is really impressing the hell out of me. Major Burns might be, you know, when you look across the board, you look at like who's needing the positions, who's needing to raise their stock, all those type of variables. When you look at all of that, I was not really expecting Major Burns to be, the guy. I was expecting him to be the Dwight McGlothern of the safeties, where he's backing him up. He's a strong contributor. He's a dude who could have an interception for a touchdown on any given play. He's a guy who could force a fumble. In fact, be used on a safety blitz. Any of those types of interesting ways that you can use a safety, he could be deployed. I did not expect for Major Burns to be the dude. But, he didn't come from Georgia all the way over back home to, say, hey, it's great to be at LSU. It's great. It's great to wear the purple and gold now. Thank you. See ya. He came to LSU with a mission. Okay? Major Burns came to LSU on a mission. And that is to be a Thorpe Award nominee. That's to be a Thorpe Award winner. Screw this nominee shit. You want to win it. You want to win. And you're not going to win if you're being nominated and you're not winning it. So a nomination does not matter. This is a stupid thing for me to say. Stupid. Okay? This is a guy who can win the Thorpe Award at the apex of his abilities. Think about that. That's not a joke. That's not me messing around. LSU has close to 4 guys. Eli Ricks, Derek Stingley Jr., Major Burns, and Jay Ward. 4 guys definitively who have a good chance of anybody else in the nation at winning the Thorpe Award. Yes, it's most likely going to go to Stingley. Understandable. He hasn't won it yet. He deserves to win it on his way out. Eli Ricks, he's going to win it on his way out at some point. But Major Burns, really, really intriguing me out there, okay? I think he is going to be the starter next to Jay Ward. I'm going to say it right now. Major Burns is going to start at safety alongside Jay Ward for this LSU team. He wants it, frankly, more than anybody else. He wants it. You're going to see Todd Harris be that contributor now. And it's going to be up to Todd Harris to use his super senior season to try and grab that spot back and do what he can. But, when he went down with another injury in spring, and, it wasn't his another type of long-term injury or anything. Obviously, we wouldn't be seeing him play right now, but it wasn't anything to do with the knee injury that he suffered in 2019. It had nothing to do with that. And, but it's just another sign of, is this guy going to be available? We need him. And, Durante Jones was really, really liking Todd Harris, and he is starting to, really trust him. And so when you lose him like that, right in the middle of spring camp, it's tough. And Durante Jones is a new coach, new coordinator, first defensive coordinator job at a Power 5. I think he needed to find that leader at safety, and so Jay Ward was that guy. But now it's up to Major Burns to seal up that spot. I think it's up to Major Burns to lose. I believe he will probably have that second safety spot next to Jay Ward. Next on the list of people who are impressing me, Quinton Pig Cage. Number 38, nickel. Walk-on from Nicholls State. 3 interceptions last year at Nicholls State. Won the Jerry Rice Award. Outstanding young man. He did a lengthy interview with LSU Odyssey, talking about his ambition, talking about what he plans to do at LSU, why he wanted to come to LSU, the mark he wants to make. Some of his favorite players. He talks about a lot of stuff, including his family. We talked to Pig Cage frequently. We talked to him today, asking him how he's doing, asking him how he's feeling out there. And Pig Cage is feeling confident. But here's the thing: he has every right to feel confident, because when you watch not just selected highlights or anything, but you watch his reps, which we've had access to, not every single rep, but some. And he is just all over the place with coverage. I don't mean that in a bad way, okay? All over the place, I guess, is usually thrown around when something's a mess. Pig Cage has been covering people like a wet blanket, just right there, snapping it away. I counted maybe about 6-7 pass breakups just in the reps that I saw. A few that he, forced the incompletion. No one made a touch or a move on the ball because he was just all over it. Forcing the quarterbacks to make errant throws is part of it as well. Usually people don't, that doesn't really get too much sauce. But for me, forcing an errant throw like we saw in the title game against Clemson, where LSU forced, 17 errant throws from Trevor Lawrence, 19? We did the same thing against Tua in the Alabama game. That cost those teams the game. They lost to us because of those errant throws. So, you want to talk about Tua throwing 400 yards, this and this and this. It doesn't really matter if you throw 19 completions, half of them on third down. It really does not matter. Doesn't matter if your team is not in rhythm, because we understand what's going to happen in modern college football, modern NFL. Points are going to be scored. Offenses are going to kick ass. It's just what's going to happen. The days of most games you're keeping teams under 35 are just not going to be there. A shutout for a defense is keeping a team at 17 or less. To me, that's a shutout in today's college football and football. That's a shutout. Now, if you get an actual shutout in today's football, college football, man. Point is, really like Quinton Pig Cage at nickel. Think he's going to really be a great asset. I don't know if he can hold off Sage Ryan for the nickel spot, even though Sage is a freshman. I feel like Sage is fantastic at that position. It's going to come down between those two, the showdown. I don't know if Sage can hold off Pig Cage, I think if it was between Pig Cage and Sage, a lot of people would be giving Sage that spot and really discounting Pig Cage because they haven't seen enough of him. I actually think a lot of people who LSU fans, I think a lot of you haven't even watched much Sage Ryan film. Because if you did, you'd be as high as I am on this guy. Okay, when one of his biggest competitors, Pig Cage himself, says how well Sage is playing, coming in as a freshman, grabbing an interception on his debut fall camp appearance. Jay Ward talking about how well he's playing. You gotta love it. Sage Ryan is going to be a phenomenal player for LSU. We put out his 2021 LSU Odyssey profile with the predictions of his statistics right in there. Jack Besh is another one who's not surprised. He didn't surprise me, but he affirmed everything about his talents, everything about his versatility. Jack Besh is looking like a serial killer out there. Looking fantastic. He's turning these defenders into fruity pebbles out there, okay? I'm loving what Jack Besh is doing. We've talked a lot about Besh, and we're going to only continue to. The other day somebody, a certain YouTube host was saying that Besh isn't big enough to block. Besh isn't good enough to block. He can't, smash people. Well, I don't think that person's watched any film on Jack Besh blocking people who are bigger than him. Because I've watched Jack Besh absolutely destroy high-octane, high-quality, highly recruited players from Louisiana and put them on their ass, okay? And he's done the same thing a few times coming to LSU fall camp. You know, if this person has been at fall camp watching as much as they say, they would know that. And that's why I don't think this person's really been at fall camp much. And if they are, they're sitting in the shade picking their ass because they're not watching. Jack Mashburn is another guy we got to talk about. You know, we went off on a Mark Rogers episode talking about Jack Mashburn, and people kind of mocked us. People were like, Alonzo Homer, that's cute of him to like Jack Mashburn. That's cute, yeah. And there's a few people on Tiger Droppings, I'm sure, who had a laugh over that. But guess what? Now it's time you fools give me some credit. Okay? You can rip on me all you want. But when I do something kick-ass, when I call something months in advance about a player that no one is paying attention to, you better give me some damn credit or you're just the world's biggest, like, self-evident liar. We feel Jack Mashburn, he's not going to be some starting force, but what you're going to get from him is reliability. You tell him to go block and put someone on their ass, he's going to. You tell him to make a few catches, get some first downs, keep us in rhythm, he's going to. Mashburn, he has hops. He's a smaller dude, but he has hops, and he can smash people. Jack Mashburn, he can light them up. You know, this same YouTube host was talking about moving Landon Jackson, whose knee is just barely coming back from a surgery, moving Landon Jackson to tight end to cover for the big, huge, you know, just absolutely insane loss of losing Nick Storrs, the insanely talented Nick Storrs, and we have to move Landon Jackson over to tight end. Mike, are you serious? Landon Jackson is an injury recovery plan that they're following to a T. Now, are they going to rip that all up to have him play tight end? The position he was playing that he got hurt playing? He's a defensive end who had 300 tackles, over 30, 40 sacks, something like that, over like 50 tackles for loss. You know, he's one of the most productive high school defensive ends I've ever seen, and you're going to tell me he needs to move to tight end when he's caught 2 touchdowns and like maybe 100 yards total there his entire career? Get out of here, man. Get out of here. That's insane. Like, get a hold of yourself. But yeah, Jack Mashburn, he can make up for that. If you want a blocking tight end, you don't need Landon Jackson. You got Cole Taylor right there. Okay? Now, there was some disturbing news. One guy I would like to highlight would be Dwight McLaughlin. But as much as I wanted to highlight him for how much he's looking like a great compliment to Stingley and Eli Ricks, I've got to highlight the fact that he has a knee injury. And it looks pretty serious. Looks like he could be out for at least 2 or 3 months. Yeah, I feel horrible for Nudie, horrible for Dwight. I know he'll get back and get better than ever, get back into the fray, but man, you just feel bad for him. You want to see him back in there playing at the peak of his powers. And I hope it's just a precautionary thing and his knee is like a week away from recovery. But from what I've seen, what I've been told, it is not a good injury. I'm not sure if we broke the news on that or what, but we heard that about 5 hours ago, and I've been trying to find if that's true and figure that out, and yeah, it's true. So that's another big loss. LSU need to practice at an extreme maximum because of that whole pandemic, not being able to practice fully, and we saw what it did to our team last year. We need that consistent energy. We need that enthusiasm. But we're getting snake bitten by injuries right now. I'm telling you. I mean, some of them are a little precautionary. Ali Gay, wearing the gold jersey. Josh Williams wearing the gold. Some of these are just about precautionary things. I understand that. Glenn Logan had his ankle in a boot, back in April. I get it. But losing Miles Brennan really, really hurt our quarterback depth. Even though it wasn't to an injury, losing Dari Rosenthal at left tackle to a transfer was another big loss. Now, losing that, I wouldn't say proven, but I would say trusted third corner in Dwight McLaughlin, a guy who I would feel comfortable with stepping in for Eli Ricks or Derek Stingley for the entire season. I would feel more than fine with McLaughlin stepping in for them for an entire year. He's gone now, leaving you with Radarius Jones. Is he going to be the guy? Ray Jones? I just called him 3 different names. There's some things to be said there. Also, Jacob Hester was talking about running backs and how Ty Davis Price had a 68-yard run the other day. Just destroyed everybody. He's got another little injury himself. Now, I've been told some good news. I'm pretty tight with the Davis Prices. And Ty should be back by Thursday. This is nothing. There's nothing to be concerned about. Ty is going to be fine. It's just he felt a little something. He's going to be okay. Ty was completely chill, unconcerned. We expect Ty to be back and probably limited until the last week or so of fall camp, and then good to go again. But he's not unproven anymore with that 68-yard run, and he's looking really good. There's a lot of people posting online saying now it's time for John Emery to take the job, and it's going to be John Emery's job. And okay, we've been saying that for years, and I know there's a lot of people who are excited to see John Emery take this job or whatever. Instead of talking about it, let's wait for it to happen. Let's give these kids some patience and let them become something instead of, shoving them into a box and saying, you got to be the number one back. You got to be the number one back. Just chill out. God, there's 30 kids coming over the next door neighbor's house. Yeah, there's literally an ocean of children coming over here. Hey, you're doing a podcast, Lon. Let's interrupt. Yeah. Oh, what can we do? What can we do? They're kids. We can move into the garage. There we go. But there's a few other guys. John Emery. I just gotta see it from Emery. I just gotta see it. He showed it against Bama. He showed it in some other spots. I want to see it for a few games in a row. I want to see it for a few practices in a row. He looks beefy. He looks buff. He looks stronger than he's ever been at LSU. But you can say that about so many different guys that they look in their best shape since they've been here. So, we got to see it from Emery. But I'm liking how TDP is running the football. I watched that run. He is gliding, my friends, and he can hit that edge. You think that TDP, someone was calling him a Les Miles era running back the other day. I'm going to slap those words out of your mouth. How dare you? Obviously, you haven't seen Ty run the football much this spring or fall because he's faster. He has more agility. He can make better cuts. And he's just straight up more relentless and more violent in his rushing attack. But yeah, moving to linebacker, the ultra-curious position of linebacker. Mike Jones Jr. We watched a lot of film on Mike Jones Jr. Someone put a camera on Mike Jones Jr. and just followed him. And I'm so glad, because it is so hard to get, even photos of this guy playing at LSU, and let alone actually watching him practice. We got to watch him practice, and I think he's going to make a few mistakes learning the position, inside linebacker, moving from that type of hybrid position to inside linebacker in the SEC. That's quite a move. He wants that challenge. He's embracing that challenge, so I'm sure he's going to be putting in the work, and so I think he's going to improve. He's gonna make a few whiffs. I think we'll have the guys at LSU here where if a guy makes a whiff, there'll be someone to back him up and shut down the play. Maybe a 35-yard gain or something like that, but on a touchdown like last year. I think Mike Jones Jr. might make a few mistakes here and there, but I really think he's a hell of a player. Coach O made a fantastic move bringing this guy into the transfer portal, which is a story LSU Odyssey broke. I think by weeks, actually, we knew that was under development, and when it was finally announced, a lot of other people got the credit, but we did the work on that story, and we knew all along that this is a guy that LSU are going to pursue. And when LSU pulled the trigger, it was a smart move by Coach at Orgeron. Almost a necessity move. And so, that's where we're going to stop, I think. I mean, Devontek's strong, Bug's strong. He's knocking some people out. He's showing some just absolute animalistic brutality out there. I've heard whispers from two different people. One person saying Cordell Flott has improved. Another saying, Cordell Flott's showing the same old tendencies. So I'm not really going to trust either of those. I need to find some type of evidence. And everything I've seen, every piece of practice footage I've seen of Cordell, he's been serviceable. He hasn't made any huge errors. But he didn't even make any big plays either. So, very curious player, Cordell Flott as well. We wrote a very intriguing, kind of intense, kind of tough 2021 profile about Cordell Flott. That was a tough piece to write. I don't feel good just criticizing LSU Tigers. It doesn't make me feel good. It brings me no pleasure. But there were things that had to be said about last season. And I'm glad I was honest. And I'm glad I really rewatched his season to make sure that was my final impression. And you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. And I feel like Cordell is the dude who could really either have an amazing season where he triumphs over adversity, or where he might fold under the pressure of this. I mean, it's a psychological hit to allow 11 touchdowns by yourself in a single season. I hate repeating that statistic. I would love for Cordell Flott to be able to move on from that statistic. But it's my job to continue to repeat the truth. Okay? So, Anyway, LSU Odyssey out. Go Tigers.